Hi, this is Reg Athwal, and welcome to another episode of Millionaire Mistakes. For those of you joined me on the first episode, I spoke about why I was putting the show together, why it's important. It's not all about success secrets, learning from people who are just successful. We also need to understand where did they fail, what mistakes did they make, and that's why I decided to put together this show series. So in episode one, I spoke a little bit about childhood, and really expanding on that, I really wanted to focus on parents with this episode of Millionaire Mistakes, episode two. So think back to childhood, think back to growing up yourself. When it comes to parents or grandparents, uncles or aunties or guardians, who raised you? Who raised you as you grew up from those early years as a baby up to maybe the age of 7, 8 years of age? Who influenced you the most as a child? Who did you spend the most time with? I know that I had limited time with my parents growing up. I was looked after by babysitters from a very young age. I'm sure that had an impact on me. And later on in my life, I spent probably more time with my mother than I did with my father, as my father was the person who was always out working long hours and would see glimpses of him maybe in the evening. So definitely some of that probably rubbed off on me when it comes to hard work and discipline and working hard in life. For my mother, I remember picking up attention to detail. Everything has to be, in a certain place and kept tidy. And make your bed in the morning, because if you don't make your bed in the morning, that represents the rest of your life. You're a messy person. If you can't even do that, then how will things show up in the rest of your life? So I'm sharing a few insights from myself, but when it comes to you, what things are with you today where you mimic your parents or your grandparents, uncles, aunties, your guardians, whoever raised you? What is with you today that I could turn around and say, you know what, that is a copy and paste. That's almost like we've cloned that aspect from that individual who raised you. And as we expand on that, what values do you think you've picked up from parents, principles, your belief system, as I spoke about in episode one, about your operating system? And when it comes to millionaire mistakes, we're talking about wealth, money, building a business. Mistakes can come up later on in life because of maybe how we were raised and what we picked up from our parents. And by the way, that could be negative or positive. So as a little exercise for you, how would you complete the end of this sentence? Money is what? Put it in the comments if you can. Okay, I'd like to hear from you. And don't forget, by the way, to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. It helps us with the algorithm on YouTube and social media so we can share this with more people. But money is what? How would you complete that? When you grew up, what was your association with money? I spoke about this briefly in episode one, where was it around scarcity or was it around abundance? Was there limited amount to go round in the family, or was there a lot to go around? And I remember my father, from a young age, he always used to say to me, it's all about cash. And there was two aspects to this. One was, in your pocket or in your wallet, always have a significant amount of cash. And it was a mental thing. He said to me, like, whether in the UK at that time, whether it's £50 or £100 or £200, I always grew up, I knew that my father would always have a certain amount of cash in his wallet. Would he spend all of that? Absolutely no, he would not. But it made him feel good. And he said, as a man and as a woman, as a human being, if you've got 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200, whatever pounds, dollars, euros, whatever currency in your pocket, it makes you feel good. It does. And that was one thing he'd ingrained into my mind. Unfortunately, though, sometimes we can get wisdom or knowledge from our parents and go the opposite direction. Because the second thing he said to me is never have credit cards or get into debt. Only spend what you have. And I rebelled with that advice in my 20s and ended up with multiple credit cards and went through the challenges of debt. Because when you've been given credit on a credit card, it's false money. It's not real, and you can start spending it immediately, but what you don't realize is you've got to pay it back. And there's a significant amount of interest on these credit card debt that you have to pay back. And we never read the terms and conditions. And thinking about 2020 and the coronavirus, COVID-19 crisis, cash is king. Cash is king. There are big companies, and some of them are mentioned in the books behind me, giants who are falling, who need bailouts right now from governments. Why? Because of debt, number one. Number two, they have huge operating expenses. And yes, they could have cut costs and reduced costs, but they still have debt. They have money that they have to pay off to the banks. And most of them have not built up reserves. And that's one thing I really want to thank my father for, because he would always accumulate. He would not spend foolishly. He would save. And he's done extremely well in terms of the assets that he's built up in his lifetime. And there's a lot to learn from that. So when it comes to millionaire mistakes, I think you have to go back and understand, what do you mimic right now? And what behaviors do you have today which has come from your parents? And is that good or bad? Is that really going to help you grow your business and manage money in the right way? Or are you left with an operating system, a belief system, a set of principles or values that could lead to making mistakes? That's on one side. On the other side, have you been given great advice from people in your family from a young age and possibly rebelled or gone the opposite direction? And maybe it's time to look back and listen to that advice. But because maybe that person had more experience, they'd lived life longer than you. And why take 30, 40, 50 years to learn those lessons when we could pick up from parents and grandparents and not make the same mistakes? And for those of you who do have grandparents who are alive today, with the work I do with family businesses and the amount of grandparents I've spent time with my clients, they're the best people to hang out with. There is so much wisdom, so many things you can pick up from the elderly. But again, you need to weigh up the advice that you're getting, especially when it comes to wealth and money and becoming a millionaire, already being a millionaire and sustaining your wealth. Is that advice good or bad? So those are a few things I wanted to leave you with today. There's a message in episode 2. In episode 3, come back. I'll be talking about marriage. I'll be talking about your life partner and lessons to be learned there, which could have an impact on your wealth, whether you're building a business or have built something, and whether you can sustain it and grow further or lead it to sabotage and failure. So come back next week. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, and thanks for watching and being loyal fans, and see you next time. Bye for now.